Welcome back. Today we will learn about the issue unfolding as Rachel's fractured memories begin to knit themselves together and threaten to change every relationship orbiting the DeMera and Brady clans in Salem. Shock next week. Rachel is poised to remember the gun, the panic, and the instant that shattered an entire family's fragile peace, setting off a chain of choices that could either redeem or ruin those trying desperately to protect her future. As those buried images surface, Brady and Marlena will face a brutal crossroads. Guard Rachel from the truth a little longer, or let the facts breathe and trust that accountability will heal what secrecy keeps inflamed. Kristen's sentencing. In court, a storm of competing pleas collided before the judge handed down a 6-year term in Statesville, firmer than the leniency Belle and Johnny urged, and short of the maximum Brady demanded in the name of his daughter's well-being. Kristen insisted her confession was a lesson in responsibility for Rachel, but the subtext was unmistakable. A mother placed herself in legal peril to keep a traumatized child from being branded by a single terrible night. Marlena's dilemma. Marlena's professional ethics and personal loyalties are pulling in opposite directions as unsettling dreams and whispered confidences point to a truth that exonerates one person while implicating another, however unintentionally. The temptation to use clinical tools not merely to recall, but to reshape how those memories are held, will test a lifetime of boundaries that she has enforced for others and now must enforce for her own family. Rachel's resurfacing memory. Early hints suggest Rachel's mind protected her by misattributing blame, fixating on Johnny's silhouette and the gun's glint rather than her own proximity to danger in the split second before the shot. Under careful guidance, her recollection could reveal that the discharge was accidental during a frightened standoff, a narrative that absolves intent while still demanding careful restorative counseling to process guilt and fear. Brady's ultimatum. Brady's courtroom push for the harshest sentence telegraphed a father's calculation: distance Rachel from Kristen's influence until the crisis passes, even if it means placing the woman he once loved behind bars longer than others pleaded for. Yet outside that chamber, the weight of what Marlena knows, or suspects, threatens to make his victory feel pyrrhic if the truth emerges that Kristen's self-sacrifice was calibrated to keep Rachel from legal jeopardy and enduring stigma. Belle and Johnny's appeals. Belle's pivot toward accepting Kristen's account, and Johnny's steadying statement, created a chorus of moderation that the judge heard but could not fully honor given the gravity of the wound at the center of the case. EJ's own written plea for leniency added a complicated note of mercy from the victim himself, underscoring how Salem's families are both accusers and healers depending on which day the scales tilt. EJ's complicated mercy. EJ's call for a reduced sentence did not erase the shock that his sister took the fall, but it reframed the conflict as one where justice and compassion must coexist if the family intends to move forward without tearing new rifts along old fault lines. His stance implicitly acknowledged that a conviction cannot stitch a community back together unless those most affected agree to live with the judgment without seeking fresh retribution in its wake. Hypnosis on the table. Talk around Marlena potentially hypnotizing Rachel is not just soap legend. This is a tool she has used to recover repressed trauma carefully, with the understanding that memory retrieval can comfort or destabilize depending on framing and follow-through. If Rachel is guided to the moment she touched the weapon and the trigger slipped in a panic, the session's recording could become the pivot that frees an innocent, softens a sentence, and begins real therapy for a child carrying more than a child should. Could Marlena erase memories? Erasing memory crosses a red line Marlena has historically resisted, even when faced with Dr. Rolf's manipulations and a town desensitized to shortcut solutions. The ethical course is to integrate trauma, not bury it deeper. Expect Marlena to prioritize controlled retrieval, safety planning, and sustained counseling, methods that build resilience rather than silence, even if silence would be simpler in the short term. Rachel's 6 words. Speculation swirls that once Rachel accepts the real sequence, a handful of heartfelt words could upend the legal landscape, confession wrapped in contrition that reframes Kristen's sentence and restores a measure of truth to the family story. Such a revelation would not absolve consequences, but it could redirect them, trading punitive zeal for a path that keeps a child's recovery at the center of every decision made by adults who fail to safeguard her from a loaded choice. After the gavel. With the 6-year sentence sealed for now, the real work begins outside the courthouse, Brady reconsidering what "best for Rachel" means, Kristen clinging to the hope that truth can still travel from Statesville, and EJ weighing mercy against legacy. Salem's next week turns on a single axis, whether Rachel's restored memory becomes a weapon, a shield, or, at last, a key that unlocks accountability without destroying what's left of this family. Thursday, September 4, 2025, Chanel's lingering heartache over adoption. The episode opens in Horton Square, where Chanel runs into Brady. Their encounter is friendly enough on the surface, but very quickly, the emotions under Chanel's calm exterior begin to spill out. With her usual honesty, she admits to Brady that she is still deeply upset about not being able to move forward with adopting Tate and Sophia's child. For Chanel, the disappointment has not faded with time. She reveals that adoption remains a dream she still clings to. Her voice trembles with emotion as she confides, "It's something I still want, Brady. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but adoption is still on the table. I guess we'll see." Brady listens patiently, but his own burdens weigh heavily on him. After offering a few comforting words, he takes his leave, leaving Chanel to her thoughts. Once alone, Chanel pulls out her phone and begins reading the latest local news. What she finds there shakes her to her core, an article about a baby recently left at a fire station. Under state law, once the waiting period for the biological parents to reclaim their child has passed, that baby becomes officially available for adoption. As Chanel reads the story, her eyes widen, and for the first time in days, there is a spark of hope in her expression. Perhaps fate is opening a door she thought had been firmly closed. EJ and Marlena's fraught conversation. Meanwhile, in a quieter corner of Salem, EJ pays a visit to Marlena at her home. On the surface, it is a social call, but beneath the polite words lies a storm of tension and unspoken fear. EJ is not here to exchange pleasantries, he has come with a very specific demand. He warns Marlena, in a tone that is both firm and desperate, that she must remain silent about Rachel shooting him. The truth, if revealed, could tear apart lives. Marlena, who has spent her career as a psychiatrist counseling others on truth and integrity, finds herself torn in two. Her natural instinct is to protect Brady from the devastating consequences of this secret. But as EJ presses her, she realizes the impossible choice before her. Speak the truth and destroy a family, or keep quiet and live with the weight of a lie. Marlena sighs heavily, her shoulders slumping. With visible sorrow, she promises not to tell Brady, even though her heart aches at the thought of the burden she must now carry. As the conversation shifts, EJ and Marlena reflect on the shadow that Kristen has cast over so many lives. Both admit their regrets, each recalling choices they wish had been different. In a moment of unguarded honesty, EJ reveals something startling: the jury could have found Johnny not guilty. Marlena urges him to wait, to trust the legal process. But EJ shakes his head, adamant that he cannot take such a risk. She doesn't know, EJ insists, referring to Kristen. His eyes narrow as he adds firmly, "And you won't tell her." At that moment, Marlena crosses her arms and glares at him with quiet contempt. The look she gives him speaks volumes. She may have agreed to his demand, but she does not respect it. EJ leaves, and Marlena is left standing in the quiet of her home, the weight of secrets pressing down like an anchor on her heart. Kristen faces her fate. Across town, another scene of drama unfolds inside the judge's office. Kristen, visibly distraught, sits beside Belle. Her son Johnny soon arrives to stand with her during this critical moment. The atmosphere is heavy with tension, but what happens next surprises everyone in the room. Despite being one of the people most hurt by Kristen's past actions, Johnny speaks up on her behalf. His voice steady, he declares that he favors a lighter prison sentence for his mother. His words are filled with compassion, even as his face betrays the conflict in his soul. He cannot forget her betrayals, but he also cannot abandon her completely. The judge listens carefully, then opens a letter written by E.J. In it, E.J. pleads with the court to reduce Kristen's sentence, arguing that mercy would serve justice better than punishment alone. The judge's eyes move across the page, and Kristen looks on, clinging to the hope that her brother's words might save her. But just as the possibility of leniency begins to shimmer in the air, Brady steps forward. His voice, steady but firm, cuts through the silence. "Your Honor," he begins, "I ask this court to do what's best for my daughter, and for Kristen herself. That means sentencing her to the maximum punishment allowed by law." His statement is like a thunderclap. Kristen's eyes fill with tears, her body trembling as she realizes the gravity of what Brady has just requested. He believes that only by facing the harshest consequences will she ever truly confront the damage she has caused. The room is divided, Johnny pleading for mercy, E.J. urging forgiveness, and Brady demanding justice. The judge sits in the middle of this storm, the scales of justice trembling under the weight of such passionate appeals. Closing reflections. As the episode closes, we are left with a cascade of questions. Will Chanel's dream of adoption finally come true now that a new child is in need of a family? Will Marlena's silence protect Rachel, or will the truth eventually find its way to Brady's ears? And what will become of Kristen as the court prepares to announce its decision, mercy, or the maximum punishment? These storylines remind us that in Salem, love and loyalty are never simple. Every choice carries consequences, and every secret threatens to explode at the worst possible moment. For the people of Salem, family is both a blessing and a curse, a source of joy and of endless heartache. Stay tuned, because tomorrow promises even more twists, turns, and revelations. In Days of Our Lives, nothing ever stays settled for long.